some big challenges, some difficult decisions, and we even get a decision wrong in law.
Let's check law. Oh no, I'm wrong. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Whistle. Today, we are refereeing Tewkesbury Town versus Chalford. This was an interesting game. We were getting observed. We had to dish out a couple cautions. Yeah, as you saw in the intro, we were even wrong in law. So not ideal, but let's head to the ground and I'll see you guys after the game. What a game. So, just finished. Much more enjoyable than last week, definitely. So that is good. I enjoyed it today, which was nice. Obviously getting observed. Debrief went relatively well. The observer agreed with all the cautions that I gave, which we'll obviously review in a minute, but just had some feedback around positioning from dead ball situations, so goal kicks, things like that. So yeah, really good to get the feedback. Tough game, lots of little challenges. The pitch was really poor again because of just the conditions that have made the pitch the way it is, which means there wasn't much football played, a lot of bouncing balls, a lot of aerial challenges, a lot of shouts for push-ins in the back, which makes for a bit of a bitty game. You know, lots of stop-start. So we tried to let it flow as much as we could, which the observer seemed appreciative of, as well as all like the little chats I had with players to keep the game moving. So yeah, overall, hopefully positive, but we'll wait and see what the report says. But yeah, let's go jump into the review. So here we are again. Man, it feels like yesterday I was doing a review. These games come thick and fast. Guys, firstly, thank you so much for all the support last week. Yeah, it was a very difficult game, as you could see. A very stressful game, but we got through it. And yeah, really appreciate all the support and all the constructive feedback as well. Ultimately, this is what the channel is all about, sharing my journey, sharing what I'm learning, and having you guys and you girls in the comments, giving feedback, discussing things, and we're all learning together. So I really appreciate that. One thing that was strange is having the same team 2 weeks in a row. It's not happened to me before. This is the first time. And yeah, it was a bit bizarre. Not in like a bad way. It's just, I'm surprised that it happened because, right, let's say, like I said, I had a really difficult game that week. Most of the negative side of that game came from the away team, not Tewkesbury. However, if it had been the other way around, it would have been very difficult to just go back the next week and referee again. I think both referee and the team would want a break. So hopefully it doesn't happen too often. But yes, let's dive into the review. So if you've watched last week's video, you'll know that when the team in yellow were setting up for their kickoff, they all kind of set up on one side and looked to play long. The same thing happens again this week. So you'll see that we've got these three players here, all lined up and ready to go. Now, when this happens, when teams are laid up all on the one side, you can make a pretty good bet that they are going to play into that area. So basically what I'm thinking is most likely the ball's going to get played back there and then it's going to get played up into this area here. As the kickoff comes, that's exactly what happens. They play that ball and they play it nice and long. So because we are proactive and we get forward into that half, it means that if anything were to happen, then we've got a really great viewpoint on it and we're right on top of it from the start. So we get about 3 minutes into the game and we play this advantage. So there's a foul on this player as he plays the ball and we play an advantage. Now, does this look like a clear advantage to the red team? Let me know what you think. My thought process in the moment was that this is a very clear opportunity for an advantage. So the winger would be able to play this pass and the number 10 and the number 2 would effectively be in a foot race towards goal. The reality is this probably isn't a clear advantage. The foul has happened, 10, 50, well, no, probably more actually, 25, 30 yards inside their own half. The pitch is poor. The standard is not particularly great either in these conditions. It makes it very difficult to play. And so should I just give a foul early in the game? I decided to play an advantage. Obviously the pass isn't great and they turnover possession. So just something to think about early in the game, something like that. It's not really a clear overload. It's not a blatant advantage for them to go forward. Maybe the safest thing to do here is just blow up and give a foul. Just 2 minutes later, the team in yellow have a chance to go 1-0 up. Then just a couple minutes after that, we give this foul in the middle of the park. So as the number 5 goes to play the ball, the number 4 puts out a foot to block the pass. He misses it, and then the 5's follow through brings him into the number 4. We give a foul, and you'll see the reaction from the players, and the red captain comes in and tells me that I've guessed and I wasn't even seeing it and I've gone on the shout. I explained to him that I could see what was happening and that it's a foul. So let's have a little look. So as the contact happens, you can see that I'm looking directly at the tackle here, right? I'm looking directly at it, I can see it, and then I glance away to see how the ball is played. I'm looking to see if the pass was successful and if we can carry on playing, as it was just a careless foul. There was nothing really in it. Now, obviously, the players think that I'm not looking because as I've blown the whistle, I'm looking away. So they're thinking, oh, he's just gone on the shout. So it's something for me to think about is, maybe make sure I'm looking back towards play when I blow that whistle so that when players look up, they know that I'm looking at play. Because even though I was, it looks to them like I wasn't. 2 minutes after that, we get this foul by a player in yellow.
Get him behind, Kira, get him behind!
This is a close one. Again, we're 10 minutes into the game. We've only had the one foul, and then we get this foul. This, for me, is on the border of reckless play, and if this was a tackle in a heated game later in the game, I'd 100% give a yellow card, just for the kind of speed that he's gone in at, if we watch it back again. Yeah, it's the extension of the arm after the contact for me that brings it into reckless. Obviously, jumping together and colliding, that's just part of football, but it's the way that he's led his arm after the contact for me which could make this a reckless tackle. For now, I decide in the moment that it's just a careless foul and we bring him in to have a chat. We basically just say, be sensible. Right, this is something that as a grassroots referee, and to be honest, it probably happens higher up in the game as well, but not as often. You can't possibly cover everything that's going to happen on the pitch. And this is an example. So the team in red are going to go on the attack, okay? But I don't want you to focus on the ball. I want you to focus on these two players here, okay? Focus on these two players here. So as the team in red go on the attack, the captain in the number 10 goes to ground and it looks like he's tripped by the yellow defender. The ball then goes out for a corner and you'll see the number 10 appealing for it. And at this point, I'm basically just explaining, mate, if anything's happened, I don't know. I have to focus on the ball. You've got a guy running through past one of the last defenders. I've got to look at the ball. Okay, and I've got to keep focus on the play that's happening. Yes, I could be glancing across, but my main focus is on the potential danger, right? Which is the person with the ball. I see this a lot. When I watch the footage back of games that I do, there's so much stuff that happens off the ball, and to be honest, it's quite comical how often it happens, and it's always from both teams. But when you're out there by yourself, it's very, very difficult. You've only got one pair of eyes to look at things, and naturally you're going to focus on the play that's happening right in front of you. My encouragement, I guess, and piece of advice for myself and for anyone else watching would be just keep vigilant on what's happening and kind of maybe just keep glancing if you can at things that are around you, because the dark arts are well and truly alive in grassroots football, even if they're dying in the professional game. We then get a situation where the yellow number 10 is complaining about some holding.
Switch on!
So the number 10 does very well to win the ball back, and then he tries to get a shot away. You'll see that the red number 4 he puts his arm across the number 10 a little bit, but again, it's just not enough contact for me to register this as a foul. He then complains, throws his arm up in the air. I tell him no, and then as they go to clear, he complains again. Like I said, in the moment, I just said to him, mate, it's not enough for a foul. At the end of the day, like, I do feel like football, we're losing the contact and the battle element of the game, and it's something that's really hard to manage as like a grassroots referee, because the expectations of players is very, very different, right? If you're out there and you're refereeing blokes in their mid to late 30s, early 40s, they will have gone through this whole transition of the game where, you know, 15, 20 years ago, you could kick lumps out of each other on a Saturday or a Sunday, and you would all just shake hands afterwards and have a pint. These days, that is just really not the case, okay? It seems to be a lot more tribal than it used to be. And so some of the younger lads really don't like the physical side of the game, and it's really hard to manage those different expectations. So ultimately, there's no, I guess, right or wrong way to do it. You've just got to try and manage the expectations of all the people on the pitch and try and find a happy medium to let everybody have a good game of football. We then get this foul on the goalkeeper. So there's a small appeal for a foul on the 9, which we don't give. Again, there's not enough in it. And then he wins it back. The ball's delivered in, and the goalkeeper and the number 10 collide. For me, this is just a careless foul. The number 10's claiming that obviously he just stood still and he ran into him. It's a bit of both, really. He's tried to slow down, but he's quite a big lad, and so he's collided with the goalkeeper. And then as we're checking on the goalkeeper, we can see that he's actually bumped his face on the number 10, and so his lip is bleeding a little bit. So at this point, we have to call the physio on. So under law 5.3, under injuries, when a player has a blood injury, they must leave the field of play. Ensures that any player bleeding leaves the field of play. The player may only re-enter on receiving a signal from the referee, who must be satisfied that the bleeding has stopped and there is no blood on the equipment. Right, so any player that has a blood injury has to leave the field of play to get treated, and you as the referee must be satisfied that the bleeding stopped before they come back on. However, there's an exception to the rule. You'll see that it says exceptions to the requirement to leave the field of play are only when, and the first one is, a goalkeeper is injured. Why do we think that is? Believe it or not, what a lot of people cannot believe is that there is some common sense in the laws of the game. So we obviously don't want goalkeepers leaving the field of play when they get injured, because that would be just carnage and a massive disadvantage. So when a goalkeeper is injured and they get treated, they do not have to leave the field of play. Okay, they just stay on, they get treated, and then we start the game 11v11. We then get some shouts on the sideline for this.
That's our ball!
I don't know. You guys tell me. Maybe I'm completely out of touch with the game. Maybe I let too much go because I get this every single week. But this for me is just like, that's just football. It's a term that's getting thrown around a lot at the minute, but it is what I would just call football in contact. Like, this is just two players dueling for the ball in a contact sport. There's no kind of excessive force in this. I don't really understand shouts for a foul here. But you guys let me know, because maybe I'm just completely out of touch with the game. Shortly after this, the team in yellow get a corner and go 1-0 up. So, obviously a great finish. But on this channel, we focus on refereeing. So, let's break down the corner. So, for those of you that have been watching a while, you'll know that this is my kind of typical starting position, okay? I'll kind of start in this area here when that ball's coming in, and I'll kind of stay there. I've been trying to make more of an effort of altering the positions I take on a corner, because for all the things we don't give players credit for, a lot of players are very smart when it comes to referees and when it comes to defending and what they can get away with. So players obviously know that I'm stood here and they're going to try and pull shirts on my blind side, right? A lot of players will do that. So as that ball comes in, we make an effort to change our angle and our position so we can get a different view of what's happening. This is something that my mentor had mentioned to me and has been mentioned to me by a few other people. And so I want to, keep adapting my starting position on corners. That way players don't get too used to where you are and you can keep tabs on everything that's happening. We then get a foul on the red number 5, and it just highlights how important it is to stay vocal in a game. So the ball's played up by the goalkeeper, and then we get this push in the back on the number 5 as he goes up to challenge for the ball. The goalkeeper's got it, so we carry on. but you'll see that he's throwing his arms up in the air asking why I haven't given a foul. I knew it was a foul, I thought it was a foul, but the goalkeeper's got it in his hand, so it doesn't make sense to stop play and give a free kick. However, because I haven't said anything, the number 5 is obviously going to think that I haven't seen it, which is completely fair. I would make the same assumption. Play kind of plays through, and we'll just fast forward through it. We give a foul, and then the number 5 asks about the foul back on the edge of the box. I then explained to him, I did see it, I just saw the goalkeeper had it in his hand, so I wanted to play on. And he's like, right, fair enough, makes sense. So when you see things in the game, it's better to talk out loud because it saves you issues later on in the game. By me just communicating with the number 5 here, he understands I have seen the foul, I am on top of it, I was just trying to give you the advantage of playing on. But by staying silent, they'll make the assumption that you haven't seen it, you're not looking out for them, which is obviously not the case. And then shortly after that, the team in yellow go 2-0 up. 5 minutes after that, the team in yellow go on another quick break. So it is a great save by the red goalkeeper, but let's take a quick look at positioning. So as that ball breaks, again, we think the red defender's going to clear it, yet he doesn't. So here, in this picture, we've obviously got an incredibly, we're in like a really high impact, high potential part of the pitch and game situation, right? Any foul here is going to be a dogzo. There's potentially going to be a one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And so there are lots of things that can happen here. And obviously we've got to be right on top of it. Now the number 6 has tried to clear the ball. He's missed it. So it's killed us a bit because we've gone back and then we've had to sprint back. However, if you're ever in situations like this as a referee, we want to try really, really, really hard to get into like these positions here, because as play moves forward, it means that you're going to have a really good view on what's about to happen in front of you, okay? As these players come together or as the player tries to round the goalkeeper, by getting into this position here, you're going to have a much better angle on what's about to happen. So as that shot is taken, we are a little bit behind where I'd like to be. It's not a terrible spot to be, but I'm a little bit behind where I want to be. But yeah, we're trying to drive into those positions so that if anything happens, we're right on top of it and we don't miss a key part of the game. 2 minutes after that, we give our first ever yellow card for simulation. And it's not for someone diving in the penalty area like you'd expect.
Go on, Henry!
Why have I given a yellow card for simulation? As this ball gets played in, they obviously challenge for it. And for me, there's absolutely no contact with his foot. From where I am, I was pretty certain there was no contact with his foot. You'll also see there's a massive screen and none of his players appeal for a foul. Everyone in the crowd is like, what are you doing? And the yellow players are like, he's trying to do it over. So in my mind, I'm thinking, right, I don't think there's contact. He's screamed as loud as he can. None of the red players are appealing for a foul, so they also don't think it's a foul. And so I can't play on. I have what I felt like was no choice but to give a yellow card for simulation. I've never given a yellow card for simulation, so let's look it up in law and see what it says about simulation. Under Law 12, under fouls and misconduct, it says there are different circumstances when a player must be cautioned for unsporting behaviour, okay? Including if a player attempts to deceive the referee, e.g. by feigning injury or pretending to have been fouled. Simulation. This, for me, was an attempt to deceive the referee, to make it seem like he had been caught by the player, fouled when he wasn't, and I think everybody in the ground also thought this as well. Now, this is really, really difficult because as a referee, it was such a bizarre feeling to effectively just call him a cheat, because that's really what you're doing. If you're giving a yellow card for simulation, you're effectively saying you're cheating, you're trying to do me over. What was even more difficult about this situation is the player actually asked for treatment and physio when he was on the floor. You'll see that throughout this time, he's actually getting treatment by the physio. The reason I've got
the yellow in my hand and I'm waiting for him to stand up, it's standard etiquette that you would wait for the player to stand up before issuing the yellow card. One, this is so everyone knows who's getting cautioned, and two, I just think it's better. I don't want to caution people who are led on the floor. It just doesn't really feel right. But he'd asked for the physio to come on. He'd got treatment for his ankle. I don't know, but I was certain there was no contact. None of the red players complained. The only player that will know is the number 6. And if I've got it wrong, then apologies, bud. But yeah, no one in that ground thought that it was a foul. And then right before half-time, the red team appeal for a penalty. So this is going to be very difficult to see on camera, but I'll explain what happens. The number 7 shoots, and you'll see that this player here slides in to block the ball. Okay? So he slides in to block the ball. The shot goes under his legs, and it hits this player's foot. So no handball. Even if it had hit the lad's arm, it would have been a supporting arm. And that's actually what I thought had happened. So I just realised that the mic wasn't turned on. Apologies, everybody. So if you got this far without the microphone, I appreciate it. I can't start the review again. I simply just don't have the time. So I appreciate you guys bearing with, and hopefully the audio quality is not too bad. But what I was saying was, even if it would have hit that player's arm who was sliding in and his arm was supporting him, that would not be handball. You can't really handball it when your arm is supporting you, as that's not an unnatural position. And I think it's even guidance that IFAB brought out to say that if it hits the supporting arm, it's not handball. And anyway, that is half time. A few things, obviously we've had did we have a yellow card in the first? Yes. We also gave a yellow card for simulation, which was bold and not something I've ever done, and was a very strange feeling, and then a couple of decisions as well. But ultimately, a game played in good spirits so far and not much hostility, but you never know what can change. So let's dive into the second half. The ball goes out for a goal kick, and the goalkeeper wants to play quickly. However, as he plays the goal kick, the ball is still moving. Now, you'll get shouts of, ref, don't be busy. Oh, busy bee, blah, blah, blah. You can't play whilst the ball is rolling, all right? It is just the rules or the laws. I don't really have a choice. Shortly after that, the team in red go on the attack, and we get a collision between the striker and the defender. So these two players clash heads, and we obviously call the physios on straight away as soon as we see that there's an issue. The player in yellow gets up pretty quickly, whereas the player in red needs a little bit more treatment. Now, we let the physios just do their thing, check on players, make sure they're okay. Thankfully, there was no blood or anything like that, just a coming together on between their two heads. They both shake hands, which is great to see, and they're both all right. And they both stay on the field of play. Why do they stay on the field of play if they've got treatment? Well, under the injury law again, if two players simultaneously go down and get injured, then they both stay on the field of play. I hope. Let's check law. Oh no, I'm wrong. Flipping heck. Right. So this is where I've got confused. It's if players from the same team have collided and need treatment, they both need to go off. Goalkeeper's injured, a goalkeeper and an outfield player have collided, players from the same team have collided. So this is wrong in law, okay? Both players should have gone off of the field of play. For some reason, I really thought that if two players get injured in a situation where there's not a foul, they can both stay on. Not ideal. We then give what's really another poor, nothing advantage later in the game. So the player gets fouled here, we play an advantage, and again, is it really an advantage? What have we got? Effectively, what is a 1v4 because the player in yellow is nearly offside. He does decide to take the shot and lob the goalkeeper, but it goes over the bar. And you'll hear the teams asking for a free kick. I probably could just give a free kick here. This is not a clear advantage. And again, me just trying to let the game flow a bit too much. Just be safe and give the foul. Then a player in red nearly scores the goal of the season. The team in red then do get a goal back to make it 2-1. We then give our second yellow card of the game for this tackle.
Fucking how many, Rev? That's fucking appalling, that is! Fucking disgusting!
So as the player's jumping in, you can see my angle on the tackle here. So I'm slightly off to the left-hand side of the yellow from where I'm looking at it, and I can kind of see what's going on. However, as he jumps up, I'm kind of a little bit blocked off on what I can see. What I could see was the red player leading with his studs slightly up, and it looked to me like he's made contact on the yellow player's foot with his studs. You'll see there's a little bit of confusion about why it's a foul, but I'm not sure why. It doesn't really look like he played the ball to me. He may have caught the ball. Did he catch the ball with a different part of his body, maybe? Yeah, so he wins the ball with his chest, not with his foot, which is how he's leading into the tackle. And so for me, this is a foul. Is it a little bit soft for a yellow card? Maybe, especially for the temperature of the game. There were no big tackles flying in. It wasn't getting overly heated. So it might be a little bit soft for a yellow card. But even so, he's still led with his studs and caught the lad late on the foot and he's off the ground. So for me, this is reckless play, but I can understand why players might think this is a little bit soft. We then get a very strange situation where we have to give an indirect free kick for verbally distracting an opponent. So as this lad goes to take a shot, there's a big shout from one of the Tewkesbury players saying, "Shank." Now, for those of you that play golf, you'll know what that means. And it basically means just to hit a ball off in a direction that you're not meant to. So someone shouted that to put him off as he's taking the shot. This is very, very niche, but you can't do it. You can't do it. Typically, you won't see people asking for a free kick for this. What you'll see is people saying, "Ref, you can't say leave it, leave it, leave it." You'll hear that all the time. You can't say leave it. So let's see what it says in law. Now, where this gets difficult is you'll see that under indirect free kick, it says any verbal offence. And this is obviously a verbal offence. So that's why I give an indirect free kick. The difficulty here is it says a player must be cautioned for unsporting behaviour if a player verbally distracts an opponent during play or at a restart. So this is a compulsory caution. You have to give a yellow card to the perpetrator here. Now, what's difficult is I didn't know who'd shouted. All I know is it's come from a Tewkesbury defender, but I'm not certain exactly who it was. And so what are my options? One option is you don't give it because you don't know who shouted it, so you can't be certain it was a Tewkesbury defender. Well, why on earth would a home player shout it and it did not come from the crowd? So it had to be a Tewkesbury player. So either you caution the person you think it was and you guess, which you can't really do, or what I thought was best is I call the captain in and a player I think it might have been, and basically say, look, you got very, very lucky because I'm not 100% sure if that was you who shouted. If I hear anything like that again, it will be a yellow card. This was a difficult situation. Even though I didn't know who committed the offence, I knew an offence had been committed. So I still wanted the red team to be able to have their indirect free kick as per law, but I couldn't give a caution because I didn't know who it was for. And this is something me and the Observer chatted about after the match. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is full time. I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. We were getting assessed, so that will be out in the next day or so. Hopefully, we'll see. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate all the support and I'll see you next week.